I'd like to call to order Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting for February 24th, 2025. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Bowman. Here. Mercado's here. Dawson.
Present.
Downs. Here. Sedaris. Kurtz.
Here.
Talley. Strollo. Selmont. Here. Affey. Here. Blake. Here. Hilsinger. Here. We have one.
All right, Commission Public, please join me in pledges.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first order of business is the approval of our regular meeting from the 27th, January 27th, 2025. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Mr. Dawson, seconded by Mr. Bowman. Corrections, anything on the motion? What are you doing over there?
I wasn't here, so I'm not gonna vote.
Okay. So he's going to recuse himself. Any other corrections or anything? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion, huh? And Mr. Mercado abstains, so the motion carries. No, because we have, he's out. There's 9, so 801. 801. Because Sean was out and one of these alternates are in, so. All right, communications, everyone got their stuff except for Mr. Mercado, which he can catch up on. The Planning and Zoning Dinner Annual Meeting for Thursday, March 27th. If you would like to go, everything is in there. Please let Mr. Glidden know if you're going to attend. It's always a good time. No, Woody, I'm sure, will be there. I know. Wood is, you know.
That's when we get together.
Yeah. All right, so under new business, I was just told that Blackberry Woods has already filed their subdivision.
The Mylars were filed this past Friday.
Okay, so they do.
They don't need the 90 days.
Okay, so the only thing we're here tonight for is the pre-application for Hydroclonics LLC. So I think you guys know how it works, and we're here just to talk and see what we can come up with. I still need your name and address for the record.
Yes, yeah. Brian Smith, Robinson and Cole. We're at 1 State Street, Hartford, Connecticut, and I'm here representing Hydroclonics and the Specialty Growers LLC, who are the owners of the property at 35 Diana Court, Cheshire, where it's currently a hemp operation that it exists there. With me tonight is Jeff Wenzel, who is one of the investors would be, we can explain his role later, who if we can find a way to come up with regulations for cannabis in Cheshire that makes sense to the commission and to us, we think we have an approach that may work. I submitted for the pre-application, I submitted a letter, and I hope you all had a chance to take a look at it. The idea is not to include retail in any fashion in the town, because I read the minutes from 2023 when you were considering the regulations the first time around, or more recently, and voted it down. And a lot of people seem to have a great deal of concern about retail operations.
Was it voted down, or did they just? I don't think it went to a
Or,
vote.
I'm not sure they were
they
voted
just
down, or I
pulled
think
it.
you just chose a motion. I think you're right, Mr. Chairman. I think you chose a motion that excluded retail.
Correct. Yeah, you didn't vote it down. The commission made the determination.
I'm thinking of the last time you guys came in. I'm sorry. Mr. Bowman's had to say something too. He was,
I'm sorry.
Your zone
Withdrawn.
tech change that's in front of us, your draft, does that fall within the state state law?
Yes, it does.
It currently states right now it does.
The regulations do. We have to have a license that meets state requirements. But before we can even get there, we need to have a town regulation that allows cannabis to be, either grown or whatever you're going to do in the town.
I'd like a clarification, please.
So I guess the question maybe, Commissioner Bowman, you're asking whether, it was brought up at the last public hearing that he couldn't get a license under the current state regulations, and they were waiting for amendment to the state regulations. And maybe, yeah, that's where
Yeah,
the
Mr. Wenzel is more current on
Versed.
that than I am on that particular aspect, so I'm going to let him speak. This is Mr. Jeff Wenzel. He'll answer your question.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Wenzel. I'm from East Lyme, Connecticut. And I'm here representing Kebra Smith Bolden, who's current licensee in Connecticut. There has been some confusion about I brought a printout. It's a good summary from Pullman on the current laws, but they are changing every year. They're somewhat in flux, and they'll change again this year. But currently, there's nothing prohibiting Kebra from leasing the greenhouse if she had municipal approval.
If you have what?
Municipal approval. We'd have to get that first.
Yeah, let me explain. Mr. Wenzel is representing Kebra Bolden Smith.
Smith Bolden.
Smith Bolden. A lot of Smiths here, including myself. But she holds a license right now, and she doesn't have a location for it, but she has the license. And if Cheshire were to, say that it's appropriate for a cultivator to operate in the town, she could do so, and there's nothing preventing her from doing that here except municipal regulation status. Right now, she could do it.
Yeah, I should clarify.
I just need you to, I know we can hear you, but you got to come to the microphone.
For the recording.
I'll just clarify, right now, Section 149 cultivators, which she is one of them, have until the end of March to make a decision on whether they're going to downsize to a micro cultivator license. But that does not require siting within a DIA zone, so Cheshire would be good. The greenhouses here would be okay for it, and then she would increase annually until she got up to a full cultivator license. But she could downsize to a micro and do that right now. There's nothing prohibiting that.
Nothing from the state that,
That's correct, yeah.
okay, so what is it from the state that, the last time you guys came in front of us, I don't know if it was you two or not, but you guys came up and it wasn't allowed in the state of Connecticut what you wanted to do. And you were trying to persuade us, like, you guys letting this happen here will help the state make their decision to allow this to happen. And we just kept saying, why are we going to put the cart in front of the horse? It should, once it's legalized in the state of Connecticut, whatever you wanted to do, then we would address it.
You're right, and I do recall that. I remember reviewing the video from that night. They were talking about the DIA cultivators, which currently are, required to be in a DIA zone, which we're about 3 miles outside of in Meriden. There is legislation proposed right now that would extend the DIA zone by 3 to 5 miles, which would make this site okay for that full Section 149, full cultivation license. But right now, she could, as of today, she could just switch to a micro and do it here and be on the same path. Does that answer your question, or?
Yeah, the question, the answer to the question is no, it's not allowed unless she changes her license to a micro cultivator's license, which she hasn't done. She holds a full cultivator's license, not a micro. So the answer to the question is no, it's not allowed in the state of Connecticut. Thank you.
No, we beg to differ. It's not allowed as a full cultivator, you're correct, but she is allowed as a micro cultivator right now in the state of Connecticut. And if it was allowed in Cheshire, she would be allowed to do that here too, today. And she can switch, because she has the full cultivator license. She can simply say, I would like to change to the micro. There's no other requirements other than giving up the right to do a full cultivator right now.
And what is the project in Cheshire that, would that be a micro cultivator?
It would, well, it would microcultivator, if this commission says we would either grant a cultivator or a microcultivator as allowed in Cheshire, she could choose to do the microcultivator and bring it up to a cultivator's license over a 3-year period, as Mr. Wenzel has described.
I thought we did allow micro cultivators.
We took it out.
We took it out?
We took it out.
We
at-
did or not allow, we did originally, and then,
Correct. When we did the moratorium, we passed the moratorium. We decided, based on the testimony at the public hearing for the moratorium, because Mr. Smith attended, that we would allow it by special permit. We put it in the regulations. When we got to the public hearing for the whole menu of the cannabis uses, we elected to take it out of the regulations, just based on so much of the public testimony that we had at the meetings. So technically, the micro cultivator is, in addition to a cultivator, is not allowed in town. Correct. Yeah, because the cannabis statute operates different than the rest of your planning and zoning, where normally you have permissive regs. If it's not listed as a use, it's not allowed, but however, we have to go one step further and say that it's prohibited. It's required by law. Not yet, but as they provided you testimony, there are several proposals to change it during this current legislative session. So.
But it hasn't changed.
Has not changed.
So what are we doing here? Well, we already did. We gave the answer before. We gotta get through the state before they come to us. We made that very clear.
Right, so the decision that Kebra, the licensee, will have to make over the next month is whether she's going to downsize to a micro cultivator or keep her regular one. But there's nothing in the state prohibiting, there's no DIA zone requirement for a micro cultivator. So she could do it here in Cheshire if you get.
Not coming in front of us with that license saying that she wants to be a micro cultivator and that she wants to be at this location in this greenhouse today. Is that correct?
I was told this was a preliminary meeting, but we have a full proposal that we would like to present to you.
and the proposal would be for a micro cultivator.
Well, either one, but it would require, it would.
Well, that's where we have the issue with this commission. Micro cultivator is allowed, so we might listen to a micro cultivator. The regular cultivator is not allowed in the state of Connecticut. You guys just told us that. And that's where we, or some of us up here, or I don't know, maybe all of us, I don't know, just feel
Yeah,
it's not right to allow something in our town that's not allowed in the state.
Okay, I got you there.
So now,
So then I think you can assume that we would be considering a micro cultivator then, which is currently allowed by the state.
in Cheshire. I mean.
Yeah.
But not allowed. It's
There's a
allowed in
little
the state, but
confu-
not in
Let me,
Cheshire.
if I may, I mean, because this is a confusing topic, cultivators are allowed in the state, they're not allowed in all parts of the state. That's really the distinction here, because there wouldn't
They're allowed
be-
in that DIE
Yeah,
zone?
they're
Is that-
allowed,
Okay.
for example, they're allowed in Meriden right now. So, one of the pieces of legislation is to expand that so that a cultivator could be allowed here. And if the legislation were to pass, and I understand your concerns, they say, fine, wait until the legislation passes and come back for a cultivator. I understand that. I'm not disputing that, but it's wrong to say that it's not allowed in the state. It's allowed only in certain parts of the state, but not here, unfortunately.
That's correct. I misworded that and I apologize.
So.
If I
so-
did, I did too. I do
So
also.
so what we are striving for is, and this is why it's a pre-application, because we didn't want to just make an assumption and come before you and say, what are you doing here? I'd rather have you say that now than, waste everyone's time at a hearing, right? But we do have a licensee. We were hoping she would be here tonight. She is the licensee who wants to be here in Cheshire. And if it's a micro cultivator that is the only thing that's available right now, which it is, but for your regulations don't allow it at this time, they did, but they don't anymore, then we would be asking you to at least consider putting that back in, because we do have somebody with a license who would like to do this operation here at Diana Court. So that's what we're talking about. And of course, we would like to get a cultivator application approved, but we understand that if you're saying, yeah, that's great, just tell us when it's done, then we'll obviously wait until the state actually the legislature actually does it. And then we would come back and we would hope that you would be receptive at that time to that proposal.
So you're doing a test run here tonight?
I'm sorry?
It's a preliminary meeting.
Yeah.
That's what it is, yeah. It's not a test run. They're just trying to feel how we,
Yeah, it's a
Received the
pre-app. I mean,
application.
that's my
Thought
understanding.
they felt this the last time.
Mr. Picado had a question, and then Mr. Affy. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
So if you came before us for a micro cultivator and it was approved and we never touched the full cultivator, is she prepared to just be a micro cultivator forever, or?
Yeah, it would be, with a micro cultivator license, sorry, I'll speak into the mic, should be able to increase it by 5,000 square feet each year, up to 25,000, and then she could become a full cultivator. So it would take 3 to 4 years.
But if we never approve of a full cultivator?
Then she would be capped at 25,000 square feet.
Okay.
Question, point of clarification. The preliminary is changing the regs altogether, because we have to even allow something in town before, forget the state, but nothing is allowed right now. We would have to allow multiple, small-scale cultivator and then, and maybe a large cultivator. Nothing, this is to change the text of the regs completely or add it. Because we said no to everything.
Correct. So what Attorney Smith provided you, actually, I gave them a copy of remember the draft regs that we worked on? Shut your mic off. So those are the draft regs that we did, we workshopped for a while, then we sent to the public hearing, which then ultimately the commission said no. So that's their starting point, but you're correct. In order to pursue this any further, they have to change the regs. So I guess the question to the commission is, knowing what you've just heard, that they can come in on a micro cultivator license, or come in to change the regs to allow it by special permit, which down the road could evolve into a full cultivator, or unless there's anything in your regs, they can go up to 25,000 square feet of micro cultivator. Are you comfortable with that use in town?
So the first things first, we have to decide if we want to allow cannabis in town to begin with, which was an extremely strong no from the public that night.
They're talking growth of cannabis.
Yeah, but when we had the public hearing for the cannabis regs, we just did a flat-out no to everything, based on the public testimony. They're coming in and asking for cultivator, which we're kind of opening up the can of worms because the public testified and said, no, we don't want any of this. I think there was 16 people that all said no, not a single person that said yes. So, I mean, for step one is they're asking for pot in Cheshire, regardless of what they're doing with it. That's really what the question is tonight.
So right, really what the intent of the pre-application, they're kind of taking the temperature of the room and seeing, do they want to go any further than this conversation tonight? And like I said, I think that if I was in your seat right now, the question is, do you want to allow a micro cultivator license in town? Granted, they would have to apply for a text amendment, they would have developed standards. So I guess that would be the first question, is that it's a use that you see consistent with this town?
Yeah, but Mike, it's very simple. When the state allows it, then we can allow it.
They do, Woody.
The micro, they can. The large cultivator, they can't get the approval. So that's why I'm getting back to,
Mr. Bowman.
without wasting a lot of money. And I know Robinson Cole
Good law.
is a good law firm and a very expensive law firm, and I'm sure you've done your homework. But I will tell you, when this is opened up to a public hearing, we're gonna get bombarded. You're probably gonna end up, and I'm not gonna say it because we have to listen to the evidence, but I don't want to see someone waste a lot of money and then you end up with a no vote. So at this point, I think we've heard what we wanted to hear. I don't think we're ready to listen to anything from you unless you want to proceed, then I'm more than willing. But I can tell you now, just with the hemp production that's going on where it is, and you want to take over and change that to a cannabis license, and the smell is going to be worse, unless you can control the smell right now, just from the hemp, but that's allowed, and we're not going to change that. But I can tell you, I would never vote for anything unless there was a promise that there would be no smell, and I would only grant something on an annual basis so that we would have the ability to shut it down if it didn't abide by our regulations.
No, I appreciate that. I think if I could just make two observations, that I did do my homework in terms of looking at the videos of the prior proceedings and what happened, and that the entire, it was a little unclear about what happened to the micro cultivator, frankly, but, you know, but apparently it sort of went out with everything else that went out. The testimony, and I'm very used to looking at lots of testimony, was very focused, as far as I could tell, primarily on retail, because I think the fear that some of the people who were testifying before you, I mean, you know better than I do because you were there. I wasn't there. I just could only look at what you heard. But they were very concerned. They didn't want their children anywhere where there could be possibility of access to the product or anything like that. And I understand that. What this operation would be, if it was granted, would have nothing to do with retail. It has to be highly secured. I know this, we were in Simsbury, where there is a Curaleaf is a producer of marijuana. They do not retail it. That's a whole separate license. It's a whole separate location. We are not suggesting, and I was very careful to say, we are not suggesting, even hinting that we would want anything to do with retail in Cheshire, because we've read the testimony too. It said that's an immediate dead end as far as we can see. So we would not, if we came in, we would not suggest that for a moment. The only thing we would suggest is to grow it and have the appropriate licenses so we could ship it out to whoever the dispensaries are everywhere else in the state, not here. And that would be our proposal if we come in. So the only difference between the microcultivator and the cultivator, and that's the one that the state does not allow in Cheshire right now, is that it allows you to do a larger operation. And I just want to make one other observation. Because I did a court case in Suffield, and we talked before the court about the difference between hemp and marijuana. It's really the amount of THC. It's the same plant. It's literally the same plant. I mean, nothing changed. So the smell is going to be, frankly, the same. It's the same problem. And we understand it is a problem, and we would then, therefore, work with you to make sure we have the appropriate regulations, that it's not going to be a nuisance to people outside the area, which is why just right off the start, it's an industrial zone. But we understand that's not a cure-all. That's just helps with some distance requirements. Yes.
A couple things. If and when you come back, I'd really like to see in black and white what the state regs are, what Cheshire's regs are. It's all over the place. I mean, you're telling me 20,000 square feet for a microcultivator. I'm looking here on the sheet you gave us. It says 10,000 square feet.
It starts at 10,000.
No, it's 2,000 to 10,000.
Yeah, but he mentioned something about 5,000 every
That's what
year,
I'm-
getting
that's what I'm
bigger,
saying.
up to
That's-
25,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just said that she can come in under
Well, not instant,
Micro.
yeah, not
So-
instantly.
So
It's,
what's changing, what's all that, it needs to be really clear, because it's not, it almost seems like a bait and switch. Second of all, I'm down there a couple times a week, and I can smell it, it's horrendous, so I champion what Mr. Bowman said, that if we do allow something like that, even multi-cultivator, to me, I think it's gotta be inside of a building that has some kind of ventilation scrubbing, so that you don't smell it at all. I mean, maybe a little bit, because it is industrial, but we have to really monitor that, and like Mr. Kurtz said, or Bowman said, once a year, we need to look at it, say, because if you're out of spec, we can stop. So that's what I said.
yeah, I mean, I think that's why we're here. We're not trying to say, oh, you've got to accept the way we like to think, just to make it easy on us. We understand that. And that's why we're talking to you tonight in an environment where we don't have members of the public ready to say, you know, I want to shoot everything down and not, you know, we appreciate the dialogue, because that's important to us. I mean, I'm very confident my client and the investors are not going to waste time and money if this is just complete non-starter. But it seems to me that you did allow microcultivation at one time. You do have a hemp operation, so it's not like we're introducing a new use, but we need to refine it and make it acceptable to people, you know, to the town. And so I understand what you're saying.
Having the hemp there gives us, at least we know what we're getting. We smell it, we're there, so we have at least that knowledge of it to go forward.
Yeah. Yeah,
And if something came in, it would have to be a lot stronger regulations with the security. And I would also like to see the, you know, whatever the fan system is or whatever to maybe
Yeah,
clean up
yeah.
what the existing business is there now, if you guys were to come before.
So,
And I have
I
one
mean,
other-
it's very, I mean, the regulations, it's very similar. I've done a lot of permitting for liquor. I mean, it's all very similar to the stringent state requirements plus the stringent municipal requirements that, you know, towns have for like distance for, you know, you can't have a package store too close to a school or a park or all the things, but that's a lot longer history, so we have a lot more experience with that. We don't have a lot of experience yet with this law, you know, that allows the growing of marijuana, and just a little bit more on hemp. So everyone's evolving, but my point is that there are strict state security requirements already that we will explain fully, and then to the extent that you think that may not be enough, we can talk about that as well. I mean, obviously, we want to find the balance, because we can't do something to just put it out of business when we start. But we also recognize that, well, if you just don't want it at all, I mean, unless we do X, Y, and Z, that's that choice we have to make. But that's why we're here. We're here to talk about it. I don't know, you have any other?
Speaking of you might be able to answer this, speaking of the state requirements, I know a lot of times there's a lot of things that I don't think the state makes a lot of sense with, but what do you think their reasoning is for allowing micro cultivator, but not allowing in certain areas a regular cultivator? What's the state's wisdom in that? Who knows? I mean,
Yeah, I'm not
the
sure.
state comes up
Wisdom
with
may
really
be the
quirky
right
stuff
word,
sometimes
but-
too.
Loaded
but,
question.
if you have an opinion on why they did that?
Yeah, you want to take a shot at that?
Yeah. So it's a good question. The state's adult use program was really created with the goal of helping out areas that had been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. So they created these DIA zones, Waterbury, Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford, thinking that they wanted the cultivation to go there so the money would go back into those neighborhoods. A couple of years later, we're realizing those are not the best, maybe not the best neighborhoods for cultivation. Something like Cheshire, which is, the greenhouse capital of Connecticut, may be more appropriate. But that's where it came from, was a goal of social equity. And as far as the odor mitigation, that's a totally valid concern. We got it, and one of the first proposals we have on updating the greenhouses is to address the odor mitigation, totally closed loop, no air coming out. and being sure that smell is not an issue. But that's something we'd work with you on to make sure that you're okay with it.
And that's something that the state has regulations on now. On top of the security part, they also have for the fumes that are associated with the project also.
Yeah, and regardless of what happens and where we go, I think we will leave you a copy of Pullman and Conley, our fellow law firms did a analysis of the current state of the state law, so that just you have it available to you, should you want to look at it, so, I mean, I think those are the issues before you, that we would like to be able to come in at least with, at least with a micro cultivator if it's appropriate, but we understand that we have to come in do a much better job than a few years ago when by the way, just so you know, Brant Smith and I have the same initials, but there's no relation, so, but just curious thing. But we do recognize that we're gonna have to address the odor. We have to address, and be very clear about what is and is not allowed and what the security is to prevent any problems at the location. And that's what we would be coming in first to address that with the regulations, and then we'd have to thereafter seek a permit on top of that, so.
And when you're all done, and it is a special permit, there will be a public hearing, and we will listen to the public. So.
Of course.
I was a developer. I went in front of this commission many times, and many times I wasted a lot of money and got nowhere, and I don't want you guys doing that, thinking that something's gonna change, because as of this point, nothing that you have said is gonna change my mind. I just want you to know that. I want to be upfront.
No, I appreciate candor is much more welcome than anything else here. I mean, I'm being candid to what we want, what we'd like to do. And if you say, that's nice, come back later, or don't come back at all, we understand that.
How many places do you have approval in this area?
How many places what? I'm sorry.
Do you have yeah,
How many cultivators in this area? Can we go and look at one?
Closest one, Simsbury, isn't it?
Simsbury, probably.
Or there's also there was one in Portland.
If members of the commission wanted to go up to Curaleaf and Simsbury, I could call up there and see if we can do a tour.
Yeah, there's one in Simsbury, there's one in Portland. I'm trying to think where the others are. I don't think anything's closer to you than those two.
Watertown,
Watertown.
yeah.
is Meriden applying now, or have they applied?
I'm not aware of it.
Meriden,
I'm not aware of any.
There was one and they pulled out, but Meriden did approve one, and
Yeah.
then the company decided not to go through with it.
I just wanted to see what you had to say.
All right.
Speaking just for myself, I'm sure I'm in the minority here, but I would not be opposed to you coming back and with appropriate plans.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
If you do come back, I think one thing would be good is when we initially looked at this, looking through the regs, and we were looking at the air scrubbers, it was finding something, how it worked, how do you measure it? What I'd like to see if you come back is find other communities throughout the United States, doesn't have to be Connecticut, that have really good scrubbers and how they work, and get some information from the local people that it does work and there's no problems all times of the season. Look at winter, especially up north, maybe something in Washington if they have it there, because it hangs low when it's really cold, and you can smell it from miles. I mean, I can smell it from my house, and I'm 5 miles away, 4 miles away, whatever it is, it's bad. The pot, the hemp.
Where he
My
is
house,
now.
Where I live,
They're producing the,
when it's cold out, everything stressed by the state low, and it spreads.
Go ahead.
I'd point out that, you know, home grow is legal in Connecticut, and there are plenty of people growing in their homes also, so, you know, it may not be the hemp that you're smelling. That's all I'd like to say. And and the other thing is, this operation would not be public-facing in any way. It would be completely private and secure, but not anything that would affect the public.
How large is the place in Simsbury?
The building right now, it's 68,000
Micro or-
square feet.
cultivator.
It's a cultivator, and of the 68,000 square feet, 42,000 square feet is devoted to the nursery and cultivation. The rest is office, R&D, and a commercial kitchen.
I wouldn't mind going up there and taking a look
Okay.
around, if you can put
I
something
can make a few phone calls.
Your business can run on a 10,000 square foot space? Seems very small.
I'm sorry? I mean,
The business of growing marijuana can survive on a 10,000 square foot?
yes, actually, much more easily than the hemp producers at this time, because once the marijuana legislation went through, it kind of ruined the hemp producers' market. I wouldn't say ruined, but it diminished the price. It's a price point, it says much higher, so yes, 10,000 square feet there would be the same as, 50 or 60,000 feet of hemp.
Driving on the highway in the state of Connecticut, I see a whole bunch of them on. But I bet you almost my life, not quite, that the public in Cheshire won't accept this. I can almost bet that. I've already heard just the last time you guys were in here, that I should be ashamed to even allow them to come in and talk about it. Well, it wasn't me, you guys went to see our town planner, but I get blamed for everything, because I'm the oldest one here. I'm not gonna answer you. Okay, yeah, okay, Matt? I took some of your time, I know.
Mr. Affy?
I'd like to hear your full proposal at some point.
You think you have, I think you have what you want to hear from us.
I think we've heard you loud and clear. We very much appreciate candor. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and to understand what we're trying to do. And, we'll make our decisions, and then if we come back, you'll make yours, and then we'll go from there. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, we appreciate it.
Okay, anything else to come before the commission tonight?
Nothing for
With that,
tonight.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Mercado, second by Mr. Selma. All those in favor? Aye.